Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Would German Defence Minister Ursula von der Leyen become the new President of the European Union be good for Poland, or merely the lesser of two evils when compared to rival candidate Frans Timmermans? The current Vice President of the European Commission has made a name for himself with his constant attacks on the Polish Law and Justice government.
Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki received an ovation as he reported on the findings of the summit in Brussels during the meeting of the Law and Justice Parliamentary Club in the Parliament. We opposed the candidacy which was unacceptable to us, the candidacy of Frans Timmermans, who was not a candidate that would unite Europe. New times, new ideas, this is a new opening for Europe, and this new opening requires new people too. We have led to the adoption of proposals of completely new candidates. According to Grzegorz Schetyna, the leader of the Civic Platform Party, the decisions that were made in Brussels are proof that the Polish government is outside the EU mainstream and has no significant influence on the cohesion policy. Where are we now? Where are the Polish possibilities and a post-political force in the European Parliament? There is none. This is a failure, not just for the Polish government, this is the failure of the philosophy of building and looking for opponents, and not building a positive structure, where you can build a good position for Poland by looking for good, strong partners. It did not work in these negotiations. Grzegorz Długi of the Kukiz 15 movement has doubts as to whether or not the Timmermans candidacy has been lost to the German defense minister. I think that we are yet to find out. It certainly is not worse than what it was. However, I hope that this whole procedure will cause some sort of sobering. That is, people in the crucial EU positions will notice that there is something known as Central Europe, that it also has its own interests, its identity. Europe should be for everyone, not just for the elected, and this is the main message that I hope the new boss will have at heart during her term. According to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, Ursula von der Leyen is a politician who allows for compromise. With the Polish government's complicated relations with the European Commission, openness to compromise will certainly be useful.
There are no politicians from Central Eastern Europe among the new team of top European Union officials, indicating unequal treatment in the EU. 63-year-old former journalist, the Italian David Maria Sassoli, has been selected as the new president of the European Parliament. Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel takes Donald Tusk's place as the new president of the European Council. His term will run from the 1st of December this year until the 31st of May 2022. Meanwhile, the German Minister of Defence, Ursula von der Leyen, has been nominated to replace Jean-Claude Juncker as the next president of the European Commission. Poland's two largest petrol giants, Grupa Lotus and PKN Orlen, are entering the last phase of the process of their merger. Today, Orlen delivered documents and requests necessary for the European Commission to begin checking the legality of the merger. Daniel Obajtek, the CEO of PKN Orlen, has stated that the European Commission is expected to decide on the matter within 6 months. Stanisław Gawłowski, the former Secretary-General of Civic Platform and former Deputy Minister of the Civic Platform Polish People's Party government, is among the accused in the high-profile melioration scandal in Western Pomerania. The prosecutor's office sent a bill of indictment to the court today. Gawłowski is accused of accepting 600,000 zloty in property benefits.
Stanisław Gawłowski was a prominent person not only in the West Pomeranian Voivodeship, where he was the leader of the Civic Platform Party, but also the General Secretary of this party in the country. He had a very strong position, he had an impact on staffing. Because he was the Minister of Environment, a lot of money was allocated to the West Pomeranian Voivodeship, among others for hydrotechnical investments. The prosecutor's office established that it was nearly 600 million zlotys. The court has received over 500 tons of the case files today. The case files are proof of Gawłowski's criminal activity. This criminal activity took place for a few years. It was possible because it happened during the Civic Platform Party and the Polish People's Party's term of office. The prosecutors were simply afraid to take care of this matter. Despite the fact that the Civic Platform Party was ruling the country, few officials took care of it. If the authority didn't change in Poland, if the law and justice hadn't won the power, only a few people would have heard the charges. We would never have known who was guilty, but today we know know that this person is Stanisław Gawłowski.
The Polish Sejm has enabled a new act which is supposed to allow the state treasury to take over the peninsula in Gdansk, Westerplatte. The state wants to establish a museum in order to commemorate the Polish soldiers who fought the Germans there in 1939. The city of Gdansk, however, hasn't approved the plans. The battle is of great significance given the fact it was the first of the Second World War and one in which the Poles defended themselves admirably despite being severely outnumbered.
Zdaniem rządzących specustawa jest konieczna.
According to the ruling party, the act is necessary because we have to take care of commemorating this place. The area governed by the city of Gdańsk is devastated and destroyed. It has recently been cleaned. The act is supposed to help establish the Westerplatte Museum faster. The Ministry of Culture wants to allocate 150 million zlotys for this purpose. Law and justice politicians want this place to show the heroism of the Polish soldiers who fought the Germans in 1939. Opposition politicians claim that the Law and Justice Party is trying to hide the historical truth. They talk about the centralization of the state and that the ruling party wants to take Westerplatte away from Gdańsk. The opposition and the mayor of Gdańsk are against the project.
Mówią o próbie zakłamywania przez Prawo i Sprawiedliwość.
To jest raczej taka złośliwość.
This is meanness and saying we don't like you and that's why we're going to take away Westerplatte. It is just stupid. There are some anniversaries that should unite Poles, not divide them. I don't understand why the ruling party does everything to divide Poles.
Nawet przy takich wydarzeniach jak Westerplatte.
Propozycje, które padły ze strony samorządu Gdańska i pani prezydent Dulkiewicz.
Propositions by the government of Gdańsk and its mayor were going in the right direction. She proposed a compromise. The Law and Justice Party government is not prepared for any compromises. The act is damaging because it divides Poles.
Tylko dzieli Polaków, którzy uważają, że nie ma potrzeby, żeby ten teren został przejęty przez Skarb Państwa.
To jest przeciw polityczny na zasadzie.
This is a political riot. We don't like the Law and Justice Party and we don't want it to do anything here. And the truth is, it's not about the Law and Justice Party, but about Poland, the memory, the history, conveying the historical truth. The weeds growing there don't show it at all. It is important to tell our history to young people in a modern way, and this is what the museum is going to do.
Pani prezydent Dulkiewicz.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, then the culture, history, and finally the travel.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight will be a bit cooler. The temperatures will vary from 7 degrees in Olsztyn as well as in Białystok. 8 degrees will be seen in Lublin, Łódź as well as in Bydgoszcz and in Lower Silesia, and quite a bit of showers will be appearing, especially around Gdańsk, Koszalin, but also in Białystok we will see the most rain tonight. Now let's see what will happen tomorrow. So tomorrow 18 degrees in central Poland, also Lublin will see only 19 and the coolest will be the area of Olsztyn, Gdańsk, Koszalin, Szczecin as well as in the northeast around Białystok, and also quite rainy tomorrow, so we will need to be using some umbrellas. The warmest tomorrow will be Krakow with 22 degrees. This is all for now. Thank you and see you again tomorrow.
Poland Daily Business Tonight. Death and taxes are certain. We won't talk too much about death tonight, but we will say a few words about taxes, especially because we have a specialist, Maciej Żukowski, Director of Department of the Income Tax Department in Ministry of Finance. Sir, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Poland is on the top of the list of the international business locations. This is, if Prime Minister says so, Polish ambassador says so, your boss, the Minister of Finance says so, well, this is their jobs to say such a things. But if you open the business newspaper in Southeast Asia and you read that the Poland is on third, on fifth, on second position of the international business in terms of being attractive to the business, this thing is serious. And now the question to you is what to do, how to hold those people who come to Poland, who will invest their money, and what should we do to keep them here?
Well, I believe there are several factors on the basis of which Poland seems to be a very attractive place to invest your money. Obviously, cheap and very well-educated workforce, good transportation, perfect location in Europe, the fact that we are a member of the European Union. But amongst of these factors, the taxes play a very important role. First of all, we have very beneficial and not severe tax system if it comes to the rates. 19% of corporate income tax is really very low income if you compare it to the developed Western countries. But also what we're trying to do is to attract the modern technologies in order to be anchored in Poland and obtain the income from that intellectual property sold by the Polish company. What we did, it's so-called IP box, where basically the income derived from your patent, from your legally protected intellectual right, would be subject only to 5%, which is close to nothing, of a corporate income tax. And this law has been announced last year. It kicked in from 2019. We also get the blessing from the OECD, which basically told us that we are not tax haven if it comes to this particular solution. So it's legal to use that solution for the companies worldwide. And we basically are trying to open the door, giving the good conditions, the good tax conditions for the business to grow in our country. And I'm very happy about it.
Right. We hear about the tax exemptions for those who invest in Poland. We hear about lots of options that are available. The question is how to attract those who bring the value-added production, value-added services to the local economy.
Exactly. So as I mentioned, the IP box is one of the ways. Another solution is special economic zones. Last year, I had the privilege to participate in that legislation, which basically opened the whole Poland as a special economic zone for entrepreneurs bringing their ideas to start the business in Poland, and they basically tax exempt up to the level of their investment. Obviously, this exemption varies from the perspective of a location where the business is put in place. The less privileged, more underdeveloped areas bring you more tax advantage. If you invest in Warsaw in very heavy industry place, then obviously you may look for the other solution, for example, mentioned IP box.
Okay. Let us say a few words about the Polish taxation system, because the Polish state is providing very ambitious, large-scale social projects. This money has to come from the taxes, and it is. We know that the liberal governments are being especially merciless when the tax of money, when the question comes to the tax money, and so how to solve this? Tax people, but not to kill the economical investment of working, having a business in the country like Poland?
Probably we would need to follow the idea of Mr. Smith, who said that you have to shave the sheep, but not to the skin. So basically, the reasonable approach is highly recommended. On the other hand, we still live in the era of so-called BEPS, which is the action of the OECD, and it constitutes base erosion and profit shifting program. So basically, it tries to stop the aggressive tax optimization, which at the end of the day is placed in the tax havens. So we have to be very careful with this aggressive structures. But on the other hand, for the honest business, you need to give them honest rules and not very demanding rates. And I hope we are good in keeping that balance. So I believe our system is quite complicated, but that's the same case everywhere worldwide. I don't know any tax system which is easy and friendly because of so many conditions to be met. But I do believe that our system is fair, and for the honest entrepreneur, it shouldn't bring any problems.
So we still advise everyone to come to Poland and start a business or put your money in our economy, because you will be taxed in a fair way. Is that a good point to that?
Yeah, and that's basically a good business, to put the money in that economy.
Cool. Thank you very much, Mr. Maciej Żukowski, Income Tax Department Director of the Ministry of Finance of Republic of Poland. Sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. I'm Polina Otterstein. So after all these hot temperatures, we will be experiencing a cool down for a few days. 17 degrees will be seen in the northeast, also in the northern parts of the country, as well as in Szczecin. That will be the minimum temperature tomorrow. The maximum will be 22 in Krakow and 20 degrees in Katowice, 21 in Rzeszów, Warsaw, Łódź, together with Bydgoszcz, Poznań and Zielona Góra will see 18 degrees tomorrow, and it will be quite rainy as well. We are expecting showers, especially in the northern parts of the country, also in Bydgoszcz. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
The alpaca is a species of South American camelid. Alpacas are kept in herds that graze on the level heights of the Andes of southern Peru, western Bolivia, Ecuador and northern Chile. Here in Poland, in Krzeczyn Mały, 3 French partners, Charles, David and Paul, started an alpaca farm. Combining tradition with quality, they established Le Chardon, a brand producing handmade duvets.
So I'm here at the processing factory for the alpaca wool, and I'm joined by Ms. Grażyna, who's responsible for that processing of the wool. Ms. Grażyna, could you tell me something about how this process works?
The duvets which we sew is a combination of the natural materials that we can see here. They are a guarantee of a good sleep because the alpaca wool doesn't have a wool fat, which is why there are no dust mites, mildew or fungus. The alpaca fibers are extremely thin and light. You can touch it and see for yourself. It has hypoallergenic properties. These duvets are perfect for people who have allergies. That's why they are so unique.
So could you tell me something about the different steps involved then in processing this wool?
The first stage is cleansing, so we have to spin it with the use of a special machine, the spinner, in order to get rid of all the impurity. Then we have to clean it by hand on this table. This is a very long and repetitive work. Next, we put the wool to the bathtub where we wash it with natural soap. Then we dry it and use the carding machine. And that is how we get a ready material for a perfect duvet.
And how do you find or decide what is the ideal piece of wool?
Before we make a duvet, we have to mix the appropriate species of the wool, which we see here. And there are 3 of them. It has to be very thin and twisted in order to make it perfectly. But I can't reveal the whole secret.
Okay, so could you tell me something about the machinery that we use here as well?
We have here 2 machines. One of them is the spinner to spin the wool and get rid of all of the impurity. The carding machine is the second one that we use to card the clean wool.
And the main use for this wool is to make duvets. So how much wool do you need to make a single duvet?
It depends on how big the duvet should be. Our company produces duvets with dimensions of 140 by 200 centimeters or 220 by 240 centimeters. The largest duvet should weigh more or less 2 kilograms.
So is this enough, for example, to make a small duvet?
We would have to add some more.
Okay. Now, could you show me a little something about how to clean the ends and use the scissors? Could you do me a little demonstration?
We have here a wool after the process of spinning. Now we have to clean it by hand, which takes a very long time. It can be unclean because of the oil from the shaver. We get rid of that and throw it into the trash can. We put the clean wool to the basket and then we wash it.
Okay. Just perfecting my skills with using the giant scissors. Apparently I've got quite an old pair of scissors, so if my skills in cutting the ends look a bit amateurish, I'm blaming the scissors primarily, you know. It's not my fault. Pani Grażyna's got a lovely new pair of scissors and it just enables her to make the process look a lot easier in general.
My scissors are definitely sharper than yours. But you have to agree that it's perfectly light.
Okay then, Ms. Grażyna. So we're at this rather large machine. We've got the alpaca wool here. Could you tell me what exactly is happening in this process?
After drying the wool, preparing it to carding, mixing it with the appropriate species, the wool has to have the appropriate dampness. We get into the carding machine, so speaking metaphorically, we comb it. And then we get a pretty clean hair, which rolls up on the other side.
Okay, so I guess that the wool generally gets very tangled. So why is it important to disentangle the wool and have it so everything is parallel?
Jakby była ta wełna nawet tutaj źle poukładana, wtedy...
If the wool wasn't well organized, then it might roll up too thickly or too thinly in some places. Then the duvet wouldn't be even and comfortable.
I nie byłaby tak komfortowa.
Aha. All right, I think we need a demonstration of exactly how this machine works. So, Ms. Grażyna, what is happening during this process?
Tam mamy, z tamtej strony na podajniku mamy...
On the other side, we have a mixed, washed and dried wool on the roll conveyor. The wool is braided, it has dreadlocks. Here we see how the combed and straight wool comes out of the machine. And we have a ready material for a duvet.
Utkany wsad do naszej kołdry.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are visiting the Polish Central Bank and the Center of Money, where they provide education on the history of various world currencies and the Polish zloty. Join us as we learn about the 1,000 years of history of the Polish currency. During our visit to the NBP Money Center, we will speak with Adam Skrauta from the Education and Publishing Department of Narodowy Bank Polski. The Polish Central Bank functions under its current name since 1945, but is a continuation of two earlier banks operating in the 19th and early 20th century, serving a similar function. We are here to discuss the history and the story behind the Polish currency known as the zloty. And now we're going into the era when Poland is under partition three-way by three different countries and different forces. I was wondering what came to be of the Polish currency, because I can imagine different powers occupying the land may want to implement their own kind of monetary policies and issue their own kind of means of conducting trade. So it must be really a turbulent time.
Yes, indeed, very turbulent, but also interesting. So three different partitions meant three different economic systems, because these territories were directly incorporated into the empires that took them. So there was very little cooperation between these territories. So three different currencies, three different banking systems. However, thanks to Napoleon and the Napoleonic Wars, when he decided to conquer Russia, and ultimately failed. But after he gave up his power, there was a big diplomatic conference in Vienna, the Vienna Congress, and one of the superpowers agreed that maybe we won't restore independent Poland, but perhaps a country with small autonomy connected with the Russian Empire would be a gesture of goodwill. So there was, after the Vienna Congress in 1815, they decided to establish the Kingdom of Poland, which wasn't fully independent. So the Russian emperor was also our king. But there were some concessions, and one of them was independent monetary system. And this is when Polish zloty appeared again. So the Russian emperor allowed the Poles to use their own currency, and also he even allowed to establish a central bank charged with issuing the currency, which was the first instance on Polish territory where a central bank was established. And it was a very good move, because when you have an independent institution, you can expect that this money can be trusted. And indeed, Polish zloty at the time was a very, very stable currency. banknotes were issued, but this time they could be easily exchanged for coins. So people really liked them because they were very convenient. And this autonomy lasted until 1831, when another uprising was organized. And of course the Russians weren't very happy about it. So after the uprising fell, they decided to withdraw zloty from circulation and replace it with ruble, which ultimately happened in the 40s of the 19th century. So unfortunately, only 2 decades of independent currency, maybe 3, and then until the end of the First World War, Polish zloty had to wait for the right opportunity to appear again.
Congress Poland was allowed by the Russian Empire to keep the Polish currency until repression intensified following the fall of the November Uprising in 1831. Next up, we will speak with Mr. Skronta about the conditions in the partitioned part of Poland annexed by Prussia and the Austrian Empire.
So what about the other parts of the partition, namely the Prussia or Austria-Hungary? What do they do with the Polish currency? Do they keep the zloty or do they have something else?
They decided to fully incorporate this territory into their own political and economic systems. So they replaced Polish currency with their own.
Sure.
So in Germany it was German mark, and in the Austro-Hungarian Empire it was so-called Korona. And different superpowers had different policies towards the Poles living on their territory. For example, in Germany there was the issue of so-called Germanization. So they wanted to make Poles genuine Germans. So they were fighting with the Polish language, with Polish culture, traditions.
So I can imagine the currency is also
yes,
part
it
of
was.
the reform.
They weren't very keen on this prospect. However, on the other hand, the situation was very different in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, where the emperor was quite liberal.
Sure.
So the Poles were free to use their own language, and also, even though they used different currency, you could find some writings in Poland on them. So every nation in this empire had some freedom. So this situation had some consequences in the future, because of such different approaches, it was very difficult after the war, the First World War, to integrate these 3 territories into one state.
So you were telling me earlier that General Kosciuszko implemented, or at least experimented with, paper money. And I was wondering, during the partition time, did the Russians use paper money, or did they go back to using coins?
So paper money in the 19th century had already been well established in most parts of Europe, especially in bigger countries. So in every part of partition, paper money existed. So in Russia it was ruble, and banknotes could be exchanged for precious metals. It was a basic rule to make people trust them. The same case was in Germany and also in the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
I see.
This it was called this monetary system was called. It was very universal. So most European countries adopted this. They either use bimetallism, so both silver and gold coins in circulation, which could be exchanged for banknotes. And even more prestigious system was so-called gold standard. So only gold coins were in circulation, also with the possibility of exchanging them for banknotes.
Banknotes. One last question. When it comes to a central bank, were they existing in all three parts of the partition, or were they just in a few countries?
So we can say that the 19th century is the era of central banks, because this is the period when most European countries decided to establish such institution. So yes, towards the end of the 19th century, in all three countries you mentioned, central banks existed, and its core activity, of course, is to issue currency and to control its circulation and money supply.
As we have seen today, the history of the Polish zloty is long, but at times tumultuous, with wars, invasions, and periodical financial crises. However, today, the Polish Central Bank has managed to keep the value of the Polish zloty stable and secure. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
What can you say about Torun that hasn't been said before? Well, it all depends on how you look at it. At any rate, we're going to give it our best shot to be a little different. Torun is perhaps the prime example of Gothic architecture in the world. Its medieval quality is virtually pristine. And fitting this setting, it's also the birthplace of Nicholas Copernicus, who taught us that the Earth goes around the sun, and not the other way around. I'm not going to say that this is everything you always wanted to know about Torun, but were afraid to ask, but it's close to it. This is certainly a city not to be missed. It's a pleasure to be enjoyed slowly and deliberately. It would take a couple of weeks to see everything in this city and really soak in the atmosphere, and that would still be pushing it. But we are doing our dead level best to show you the greatest hits of Torun. So sit back and enjoy the next few episodes as Torun is unveiled before your eyes. I'm Will, this is Poland Daily Travel, and we love to see you watching. Like us on YouTube, and subscribe if you really, really like us. So join us for Poland Daily Travel does Torun. More legends of Torun. This one is about the mystery of the bell of St. John's Cathedral. Take it away, guys.
Good people, beware, it is the plague, the Black Death. Don't touch a rat or you will die of sickness. In the past, people weren't as educated as you are now. They didn't know what causes sickness. They believed it was punishment for their sins sent by God. Everyone feared year 1500. People believed it would be the end of the world. To apologize God for sins and to call off the end of the world, of the authorities of Torun decided to make a huge bell. The bell is called Tuba Dei, God's trumpet. And it hangs in the St. John's Cathedral Tower. It was hard to hang it there. 12 oxen carried it over there on the huge ramp built for that purpose. But they didn't want to get down. They were then slain at spot. Their meat was eaten during a feast that had lasted for 7 days and 7 nights. God must have liked the sound of the bell. So the world didn't end and God sent an angel to Torun. She was to protect the city from all ills. There's still an angel in Torun coat of arms. Okay, ring the bell, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Poland Daily Travel. Yes, this is the torture edition. That's correct. And as you can see, we have put my guide and friend Karolina Rucinska into the cage where they keep the witches. That's not to suggest anything personal, but that's what the cage is for. We're here in the House of Legends in Torun, where weird things happen. As you can see, if I don't behave myself, I will soon be in this thing. And our colleague, Conrad, has something to tell us.
Hello there, folks. In the year 1629, a thief was caught in Torun. He robbed a rich merchant. He was sentenced to death and was to be hanged just outside the town. But from the gallows he spotted Swedish army. He shouted as loud as he could, "The Swedes are coming!" And so he warned the residents and saved Torun. He was forgiven and nicknamed Swede. However, not everyone was that lucky. Those who broke the law were severely punished, like that witch right there in this cage. And that man. Come here, boy. You will be punished as well.
I guess I did the wrong thing again.
Yeah, pesky little thief, that's what I say.
Great Scott! Folks, we'll be right back after this special edition of Poland Daily Travel. Hey guys, let me out of here. Hey, Conrad, come back.